Leslie, as a Democrat, do you have a problem with either of these choices, and what would you suggest going forward?
Well, first of all, abortion is not the reason whether you're for or against it that Becerra has been chosen. One of the reasons is that he led as Attorney General of the state here in California, 20 attorney generals throughout the country in fighting back against the Trump administration with regard to Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, which is something very near and dear to the president-elect who will be inaugurated's heart. Joe Biden has talked about not having us lose our private insurance. If you have Obamacare, keeping it and expanding on that, even though Joe Biden is not a proponent of Medicare for all. Remember, right now, the person in the position, if Becerra is confirmed, will be in charge of distribution and overseeing the distribution of vaccines. In addition to that, though, with both of these nominations being put forth, the GOP has to be very careful because Joe Biden is trying to assemble a very diverse cabinet. And you have the Congressional Hispanic Caucus pushing him for Latinos. You have the Congressional Black Caucus pushing him, Joe Biden, that is, for African Americans. And the GOP will be sitting there vetting the first Hispanic for this position in Becerra and the first African American in Austin for this position. And it can be perceived very negatively if they just say no, 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 especially to the diversity.
Hold on a second, Leslie. Are you saying that criticism shouldn't come and a fair fight over what you think is right or wrong shouldn't come because of a person's color of skin? We
absolutely not. What I'm saying is, if the Republicans shoot down every single minority that is put forth for these high-level positions where there's never been a minority in that position before, it could be perceived very badly among those minority communities.
You can diversify without stopping the fight over what is best for the nation. You can do both. You can,
but the perception in the Latino community and the perception in the African-American community could come back to hurt the GOP, which in 2022, Harris, has a much more difficult roadmap to the Senate majority.
Kennedy.
I'm actually worried about General Austin because of his gross incompetence and his willful ignorance of good intelligence, which led to some really bad decisions. When you combine that with the president-elect's pick for Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, who also has a history as a warmonger, they will use what Molly appropriately called the military-industrial complex to, deadly expansion. And I don't think you have people who have the proper rationality and restraint. And that does scare me because they know how to concentrate power in the bureaucracy. In terms of Becerra, all he's done is file lawsuits. You're talking about getting, over 300 million people vaccinated. And that means he has to have a working knowledge of health and insurance infrastructure. And he has neither. He doesn't have any of that. And I think that because he checks a box, that's not enough qualification for him to administer something as critical as life-saving vaccines when we are in the middle of a crippling pandemic.
Well, if it were the box about what the job were going to be, that would be the correct one.
It is not that box.
I seem to be stuck on the square. Maybe it's my tan. Anyway, Fox News alert. We're awaiting President Trump, set to sign an executive order on the long-awaited COVID vaccine, putting Americans first.